Okay, go ahead.
Um, so as I was saying, what we just really need white people who just are confused to realize is that we are sick of trying to tell you all, or we are just sick of trying to convince people that we are human. I every single hashtag pushes us further and further to a tipping point. And what people are failing to realize right now is that you're not seeing riots, right? And I think, Dr. Lamont Hill says this best, like, you're not seeing riots. Riots are like what sports people do when we, win a game or what have you. What you're seeing is rebellion. And rebellion is the price this country pays for the treatment of our people. We don't have anywhere else to go. We don't have anywhere else to go. Like, we need more Tim Wises. If white people don't know who Tim Wise is, learn who Tim Wise is. He's a white man who stands up and speaks against this very, very, very blatant racism. Like, it is just ridiculous to me how people do not understand. Like, people are like, oh, well, you don't need to loot and all this stuff. Well, listen, what else do you want us to do? What else? You want us to kneel and be quiet? We tried that. You want us to try to go to have peaceful, demonstrations at city halls? We've tried that. Ferguson. We've even tried the violent route where we, stood in police people's faces and still nothing. And so now police precincts are on fire. Targets are on fire. Cities are on fire. And it's going to be like, I'm so afraid that it's going to come a point where people are just not going to care. Because the rage behind, like, for those of whoever is going to, get this information, but even back to Trayvon Martin, I remember watching the Trayvon Martin case and being like, my God, they literally, we're watching this young man be murdered in front of our faces. And I'll be 40 in July. So I remember a time where, like, stuff like this was taboo. And now we're in the world where, like, they're not even afraid of being recorded to kill us. Like, that man kept his knee on that man's neck, knowing he was being recorded. Like, that level of just, so, a friend, a Facebook friend of mine, Kip, who's another white man, was very, very candid. Kip Brooks is his name. He said, white people, we have to stop lying about the secrets that we don't want to share. We have all been taught this thing on how to see Black people. We've all grown up, having birthday parties and wanted to invite our Black friends. Like, we gotta stop with the secrets. We have to stand up to our parents and say, hey, what you taught us was wrong. That's not how Black people are. I know incredibly smart, wonderful, and even if I don't know them, they're still humans. And had that been a dog, Paloma, like, do you know the apocalypse that would have happened to that police officer if that was a dog? When white people can put guns on their holsters to say that they want to, they want to protest COVID-19 and spit on police people and not one of them was murdered the way that this man was murdered. And then they lied to try to make us think. And why is it that Black people are the only race of people that get blamed for our own murders by police? Why do y'all blame us? It's ridiculous because it's like, on my friend group, right? Like, in my friend group, I do not have the access to the white people. I do not have access to the country clubs and the secret pen or whatever school you went to, clubs that you get to go to and have these conversations where you get to be racist in front of each other, and we don't ever get to, I'm not in those circles. Sure, I have white people on my friends group list, on Facebook, but I'm not invited most of the time to those circles of people. And then we talk about the entrepreneurial space and all of these other things, and it just keeps permeating, and we're sick of it. We are sick of it. We are sick of it. And don't say you don't see color. You have to, because if you don't, then that's the problem. You do not see my Black skin for it being beautiful and being a part of this human race, then you do not see me, which makes it worse. We need people to see us. And to be honest, Paloma, I don't have a lot of hope. This is continuing to happen. It happened in the slavery time. We had abolitionists, white people who would hide us and our ancestors in their houses, right? And white people still was like, well, we're still going to treat them like dogs and 1/8 of a human. And why? 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 For what? We get through the abolitionist phase. We get to the civil rights movement, and then we have allies, people who want to march with us. Martin Luther King, all the white people who were on the bridge. Great, wonderful. But any sort of government person who was white, who tried to advocate for us, was shunned by the whole country, even. You get through the 60s, and then allies are important, great, but now we're here. And allies don't do it anymore. We need accomplices. We need white people who are willing to feel this with us, who are willing to feel this rage, who are willing to see the hate spewed from other white people, who are willing to be a part of this front line with us. So that means speaking out and being like, I was taught this and this was wrong, and I'm willing to sit in my mom's or my dad or my friends or the people who I even have participated in some of these things with and say, hey, y'all, this is not right. Because when I go live, not a lot of white people are looking at my live. That's where we are right now. And I put up a post that, today is like, even some of us who are looking at the president talk about us standing up for ourselves and calling us thugs, but white people who think that this pandemic that is killing over 100,000 Americans, those people are very fine. We're not even Paloma. The knot that happens in my throat, and I have a best-selling book. I have a doctorate degree. I, have a full-time job. Everything that I have, I worked really hard for. And there's a knot in my throat when there's a police person driving next to me, let alone if he pulls me over. All of that, none of that will matter anymore. We have seen countless, countless Black men literally helpless, unarmed, being cooperative. Black women too, Sandra Bland. Philando, like Philando Castro, the EMT Brianna, who like for just went in there and killed that Black woman. The white woman, police officer in Dallas that said, "Oh, I didn't think that was my apartment." You knew both of them, like you knew. It is my true belief that when George Zimmerman got away with killing Trayvon Martin in front of our faces, that's when people was like, oh, "Okay, well, it's open season now." We are not in those meetings. We don't know the conversations that white people have about us. And this is why we need white people who are in those rooms to say, this is wrong. I have never, ever seen a white person be murdered on TV. Never. It has become commonplace to see us be murdered in front of y'all faces. And then we got to go back and forth on Facebook to try to justify why you should not, why you shouldn't say anything when we're enraged. There's this white woman who tried to say, like, I understand that you all are feeling away, but do you need to like loot and destroy the city? As opposed to what? What else? What else? What would you suggest us do then? How should we do this better? We'd love to hear it. Why would that white woman in New York? Why would that white woman lie to 911 and tell 911 that there's a Black man attacking her? She blatantly put on a performance because she knew that would evoke fear and that the police would come running. We watched that white woman legitimately say to the police that that man was attacking her. And we watched him, all he did was stand there. We have so many examples. And miss me with the one example where people are like, well, white people have been killed by Black cops. Miss me with that. Miss me with that. Miss me with that. Because for every white person that's been killed by a Black cop, like, we have been marginalized times 1,000. And no life lost is justified in that way. I want to be very clear. Like, we have to always, as Black people, we have to always think like, okay, see it from the other side. We are sick of seeing it from the other side now. We are sick of being understanding. We do not want to hear anything else other than this shit is wrong. We do not want to be meek. We do not want to sit down. We do not want to be quiet. We don't want to say, we don't want to be careful with our words. We don't want any of that. How long have we been able to try to do that? Rosa Parks sat on the bus. We've been quiet. In the civil rights movement, we silently protested. Students sat on benches and on diner stools. We've been hosed, shot. dogs sicked on us. We've had our children murdered. We've had all different types of access that we cannot get. Our schools don't have the money that it needs for to be able to prepare our students, to be able to prepare them to go to the colleges that y'all say, the degrees that we need to be able to be paid a little bit of the money that you say we need to have to sustain in this world. And then when we try to get the access, you look at us like, oh well, because you don't speak fluently, or you don't it doesn't make sense when you talk, or this student or this person has more knowledge than you. Yeah, I guess they would if they had $5,000 of resources to pour into them preparing. And of course, the country, United States, wants to open because COVID-19 is killing an overwhelming majority of Black people. Why? Because we're frontline workers. We do not have the education to get the jobs that allow us to stay home and work from home for 2, 3, 4 months at a time. We do not have the high school diplomas, the college degrees. We do not have the entrepreneurial partners. We don't. And all the things that white people think we have, we do not. We have always had to try to figure it out. And we are sick of that. We watched this white man kill this man. Paloma, he peed on himself. You see the pee coming from under the goddamn truck. 3 white police officers was kneeling on that man. And let's not be ignorant of the Asian police officer as well, because Asian Americans are mostly complicit in some of the ways that they see us as well, because they see white people as the superior. Some of the people of color, Asian people, are just as complicit. Not all, but for the most part, because it is like, sir, why didn't you try to stop them? But that's not what this conversation is about. We white people, we're done. We are done. We are done fucking talking. We are done. There's a quote, like I said all day today. Like, you say the Negroes so meek and so docile, beware the day that they change their minds. Yes. Yes. At this point, as I posted earlier, you know, at this point, how we act is just science. Like, how do you expect us to act? Lawmakers, judges, police officers, people who told us that they were they're not here to protect Black people. Oh no. Oh no, no. I wholeheartedly believe that, like, the justifications and the foundations of the police department is mostly to protect white privileged people from us. Donald Trump, those thugs, sir. Then Mike Pence talking about we need to, be respectful and mindful of the memory of, Mr. Floyd. And we're like, get the fuck out of here, Pence. Wasn't you the one that walked out because the kneeling was happening? Walked out of a football game because players was kneeling? So we don't give a fuck about we don't want to hear none of that. We do not want to hear it. It hurts. It's like, and honestly, like this pandemic, this coronavirus pandemic, it it's horrible, but this is how we have always had to live as Black people, in fear of coming outside, hoping that we don't die just for being Black, for running. That young man, Amar, like 3 people were like in the last 2 months. And Amar Arbery happened in February. They wasn't even gonna tell us about that. We we are sick of y'all of white people hiding the truths and standing up and saying to your people, this is ridiculous. And if you are part of the circle where people are still continuing to not understand, then we implore you to make a decision. Because we don't have it. They don't want to listen to us. And we got doctorate degrees, we're lawyers, we're physicists, we've invented things, we, are athletes, we are entrepreneurs, we're judges, we're doctors, we're operating, we're taking care of your children, we're feeding you, we're chefs, we're 8-star chefs, we own property, we're real estate moguls, we're entertainers, we're everything, and you still. And that is because your ancestors has passed down from generation to generation how to treat us. Because there is nothing that we're going to do that's going to get rid of racism. But I think if enough people speak out against it and enough people start to change the trajectory of what it is that they were taught, or if enough white people are able to feel okay with saying, hey, I'm a white person and this shit is fucked up and my people are fucked up. We are a fucked up race of people if we cannot collectively gather around what's happening to these humans. How many more examples do you need? How many more of us have to die in your face for you to separate from what you were taught, white people, and say no? No. The president, what makes me even more mad is like the leaders that people are looking up to are perpetuating the behavior. Only for Black people. Donald Trump said when white people was protesting COVID-19, those are very fine people. I understand why they're upset. They want to get back to work. When the people in Virginia and Charlottesville, young lady literally was killed by white supremacist group. Donald Trump, very fine people on both sides. No. If you are the leader of this country, inviting this level of hate to us, then people are going to feel like they have permission to do it. There's something to be said about, like, even other leaders. The president of Liberty University said that he would wear a mask if it had blackface on it. Sir, you are the president of a whole goddamn university. And you said that you would be okay with wearing a mask as long as if it had blackface on it? People are bold, are becoming more bold and emboldening in their beliefs. And the things that we thought that people accepted us for, they really don't. And so now we have to act. Y'all don't accept us for our intellect. You don't accept us for what we bring to the table. You don't accept us for anything. And we don't want to hear the one-off examples of when you do. We don't care. We don't care because the overwhelming majority of the times that you don't outweighs that one time that you do. I had to start a meeting today. One of my staff members was like, "So, hi, Dr. Jones. Like, how are you feeling this week?" And I told her, I said, honestly, I was fine until yesterday. I was fine until yesterday when we are now like watching white people's real feelings about, and I get it. Like, we're in 2020. People have felt like this all the time. We just have access now to how people feel. People are posting how they feel so we can see it now. But if it doesn't wake you up to say like, wow, we have a very pervasive problem in this country where we really treat black people like shit. One of the best supervisors I've ever had was a white woman. And one of the things she said to me, she said, as I want you to know that I recognize my privilege. And I'm going to make sure that I create space for you, Kenny, because with you just standing alone, I see your magic. I see what it is that you bring to the table, but my people do not. So I have to walk in the room first to give you the permission to do that. And unfortunately, that's the truth. Had it not been for that supervisor, I would not have been able to speak on the stages in higher education that I was able to. I would not have been able to have the experiences and the opportunities to sit on these boards and all these things that I've been able to if it wasn't for that white woman. And it is unfortunate that that is the truth. Because when I advocate for myself, I got to prove myself 20 times as hard. So this is why when marginalized entrepreneurs or marginalized students or marginalized professionals reach out to you as white people and ask you for your support, this is what we mean. We want you to walk in the room before us sometimes. We want you to be able to give us the space and the opportunity to be ourselves because we do not have the access that you do. It sounds a lot different to hear that Dr. Kenny Jones, a black man, best-selling author, versus maybe Cade Arbitoro, whatever his last name is, who is a best-selling white man, best-selling author. As soon as he says he's the best-selling author, everybody flocks. For me, I gotta have 2 doctorate degrees, 2 master's degrees, my best-selling book, and 200 other bestsellers that I've helped produce for somebody to be like, oh, wow. We don't we don't have the space. We don't have the access. And the other part of this is, a lot of people in my community make the argument that like, we don't need white people to help validate us. That is a very unhumanistic approach. Whereas if you know that there's people who allow us to see ourselves as human beings, then allowing us to have that space is okay. Like, I think that's fine. And it is, and I've seen it in my own life. So I think that that's the thing that people should hear. Be accomplices and make space. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kenny. I really, really appreciate it. I know it's emotional labor and I know it's exhausting. And I really, if there's anyone else that um, would like to talk, I'm going to share this with my leader friends. If there's anything else that you think of that you want to add or you want to say, or if you want to do a part two another time, um, I will very happily shut up and listen. And
How
yeah,
are you feeling? Like, what did that do for you? Like, how did it make you feel hearing all that?
I want you to be heard. I feel disturbed. I mean, it's always been disturbing, but it's just there's so many disturbing things that happen that we learn how to shut down, and we learn how to, everything that's going on with COVID is disturbing. When I pass by a homeless person and I don't know what to do, it's disturbing. Uh, what my fellow humans have to go through is disturbing. Um, and there's part of it that's kind of dehumanizing, that there's so many disgusting things going on, and it's hard to know how to be within it without kind of shutting off some pieces of our humanity. But it reminds me of I've had some conversations with Black friends of mine and been like, what does it feel like? Because I spent a lot of time in New York, about 5 summers there, and and I would ask them, like, what does it feel like to be asked a Black woman and a Black man? What does it feel like to be a Black man in America? What does it feel like to be a Black woman in America? Ask this woman, and she said very quickly, I said, what does it feel like to be a Black woman in America? And she says, it feels like being a slave. And I asked a Black man, and he said, it's not the overt racism that's the worst, because you just know, oh, you're crazy, he said it's the shit that you don't know, the microaggressions that kind of make you go nuts, not knowing, did I imagine that, am I being oversensitive, whatever, or is it really that this person just, like, that not knowing. um, and then another Black friend of mine said to me, he is like, everyone would say to him, oh wow, you're so articulate, you're so smart. um, and he is brilliant. He was just tired of people saying that to him, and he used this phrase that stuck with me, and he called it the bigotry of low expectations.
Mm.
Of
Mm.
It's like, if you speak in a certain way, it's not acceptable, that's bad. And then if you have whatever kind of vocabulary that's considered high or lofty or high status, then people are surprised, and people being surprised in and of itself is disturbing. And so it's interesting, like, I have these experiences where I notice my own privilege, and I do my best to speak it to people who don't. It's interesting because of course I had the choice to make when I heard everything that was going on. The choice is the privilege. The choice to say, do I want to participate or not, that is the privilege, right? And so I had an experience of this when I was in New York, and there was a Black Lives Matter protest going on in Union Square. And I was like, oh, if I want, I can just go to that Forever 21 and go shopping. I don't have to be part of that, right? And that recognition that it was optional, I was like, okay, that's a version of privilege. Another version of privilege, when I was with a Black friend of mine, and he, something with the turnstiles wasn't working or something like that. And then these two police officers came up to us, and I said to him, let me talk. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I just said, oh, we're from Canada, blah, blah, whatever, Um, uh, Seeing in New York, two young Black people about to get on the subway, and then seeing white police officers on the subway, and both of them looking at each other, shaking their head, and going to the next streetcar. the police presence whenever I'm in New York, it doesn't make you feel more safe. For women as well, police don't feel safe at all. They feel like a menace, a threat, or being watched and policed. Yeah.
It's just baffling to me, like how it's just. I feel like we've had this discussion so many times, you know.
Yeah. It's like
we've seen the posts, we've seen the hashtags, we've seen, you know, when Ferguson happened, we saw the same things, and we were having these discussions when Ava DuVernay released "When They See Us" about the Central Park Five. We had these same conversations, and it's like. I just think we need y'all to just be in your own space and talk to each other, because we can't do it.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
Sometimes it feels nerve-wracking, like preaching to the choir. Like, I wonder if the only people who would listen were the people who were already whatever that. But I mean, even people that are very like respectful or whatever, there's no good language to have this conversation, but I've seen them say things like, there was a black friend of mine and a friend of mine, and he was talking about his experience traveling, and he was saying about how he's even more aware of being black in other countries, right? And my friend said something like, "Oh, that's just him like being dramatic," or like he always posts these like whatever kind of posts. And I said to her, like, could you imagine for a second what it might be like to walk around and someone already has a story about you in their mind about who you are, and that's how you walk around, and it just like it's being perceived as white means almost like you have a blank slate, like you're given the benefit of the doubt. And so it's just moments like that. Sometimes you think that when there are certain family members or people in extended family who are show discriminatory or stereotypical thinking, you kind of think they're a little too far gone.
Yeah.
You kind of think like, oh well, that generation will die.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I mean, it's a systemic thing. It's not an age thing.
Correct.
But it's. I think that a lot of people don't have these discussions because they're terrified of saying the wrong thing. And so I go on a walk every night, and I was like, I need to do something, and I'd rather do something awkwardly, imperfectly, whatever, than do nothing, because I think doing nothing is the most like reprehensible thing. And I really, for me, the Martin Luther King quote, "An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Nobody is safe. That's what I want to say. It's like, okay, fine. Let's appeal to people's self-interest for a sec. Okay, you have a problem that you don't care about people who are different than you. Okay, that's fucked up. But just know that there's nobody safe. There's no, in a society where some people aren't safe, nobody's safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody's safe. And that's the thing. It's like, don't think that you're exempt from this because you get to walk around in a different, And so it's interesting because I put on all of these kind of entrepreneurial panels, like a self-love panel, a perfectionism panel, whatever. And I was like, what if we could, I think one of the best things that allies can do, or people who care, is to just shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I watched this video a while ago on how to be a good ally, and it was like, you're not Beyonce. Don't go to the Black Lives convention and be like, it's my turn. Like, you're not Beyonce. They're like, you're not even Michelle. You're that chick who like kept leaving, the one that knowing that's who you are in this whole scheme of things. And so I think that the best thing that allies can do is, first of all, don't take for granted it's nobody's responsibility to educate you. It's all of our responsibility to educate ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, recognize the emotional labor that's involved in expressing to basically begging to be believed. You know what I mean? Like, please believe me when you're gaslit, told that you're crazy, sensitive, angry. Well, yeah, of course. Why the fuck wouldn't you be angry when your people are being slaughtered? Like, it's there's no right way to be. That's the problem. Is that there's infinite double binds. You're too loud. You're too quiet. Normalization of let's be like them so that we can get in, versus we're not being radical enough so we're not being heard. And it's a kind of thing of a no win. And that's yeah. It's
Powerful. That's powerful. I think I think that is what drives it home, really, because that's exactly it. It's like, how do you live in a world like that where you it's like tug of war, and
yeah.
and it's like being in purgatory. That's what being Black feels like. And even when we create space for our own selves, we still don't have the space. Because when we have to go buy property or buildings, right? Like we got to go to certain areas of the country to feel safe enough to be able to build on our own knowledge and wealth.
Yeah.
There's areas in the country where people know, like Atlanta, New Orleans, and not even, right? But for the country to know that there's one place, one city in all of the cities of the United States of America where Black people are thriving, everyone knows that that city is Atlanta, Georgia. And for it to be only one city does not tell people anything. So yeah, it's like, you're too loud, you're too quiet, too smart, you're too dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You're too radical.
Mm-hmm.
You're not radical enough. You're too practical. Too much. You too educated. Who do you think you are?
Mm. Or also the stereotype of how you got there.
Or that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I know in a lot of these discussions, one problem is that because white people feel guilty and as they want to say, okay, okay, skip that. I hear you, I feel you. Okay, so what's the solution?
Yeah.
When I was going on my walk, I was like, that's not the approach. You feel it.
Yes.
Feel it and see it and grieve. Because the skipping to the solution is a real way of bypassing the humanity of it all. I know that it feels good to be, okay, let's think solutions. But just to feel, to be like, let's not take the feeling piece of this out, that like we are, I know it's like a fucking cliche, but we really are all fucking brothers and sisters. And to really feel, I mean, we can never feel the pain of the other person. All of our pain is different, but it's similar, you know?
Yeah.
And so
it just baffles me, like, how is it that people are not impacted by watching that man die? Like, how are white people who justify their thought of, like, I don't, like the mayor of Mississippi, or like some mayor in Mississippi was like, I don't see no wrongdoing. I don't see the issue. First of all, it wasn't enough that we shot Philando Castile in front of his girlfriend in broad daylight, right? And have it recorded so people can see. That wasn't enough. Like as a country, we watched that man die in his car in front of his girlfriend with blood coming from his shirt. We watched it. No criminal charges. This man and two other police officers, we watched them murder George Floyd. He was breathing in the video, saying he cannot breathe. We heard it. We watched him urinate when he died. We saw it. And still white people are like, well, like that doesn't make it, huh? You watched another human being. You even hear the witness say his nose is bleeding now. While this white man taunted George Floyd while he was on his neck, he even shook a little to make sure that he was dead. I'm sorry to rehash it. It's just, yes, that is it. Like we need to we need to sit in it. We don't need to get to. We don't. There is no solution. There's no solution. There is no solution. What we need now is for people to sit in this with us. Because conversations for the solutions are over. We tried to have solutions with Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland. Philando, Botham John, Mike Brown, Eric Gardner. Why am I still naming? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, these are people that we know of that were murdered by the police in front of our faces. And I was able to name and name and name and name and name and put another name and another name and another name. Now, let me think of a white people who that has happened to. I cannot think of one name. So the hurt and the anger and the amount of time that people should feel this, it it may be the next step because I honestly do not. I don't feel like we are done. I feel like we're in a place now where we're outraged, and when we're outraged, we're outraged. Because it's like you asking us like how we feel, and it's like it's scary. It's like being in like a coliseum, and all the white people are sitting in the chairs, and we're like on the dirt, and like random white people can just kill us, and we don't know who's next. And we're just in the middle of the coliseum, just walking in circles, trying to get someone to just stop it. Say, hey, y'all, like, stop that. Like, this is not good. That's what it feels like. It's scary. Every time we get pulled over by the police, any interaction with the police person, we're terrified. It's like living in a scary movie, honestly. It's like that's exactly how it feels. Like you don't know which white person is going to throw the next stone or if it's going to hit you because you're walking too slow. And so many white people are in the Coliseum that like it's easy for them not to even pay attention to when one of us dies. So we're screaming out. It's like people are like miles away from us, so they can't hear us screaming, "Stop! You all are killing us."
Kenny, for other people who want to try to have these kinds of conversations, is there anything that you would say to them of like do or do not do to keep in mind? Um,
Yeah, I'd say keep in mind, do not try to justify or do not try to quell any black person's feelings right now. However, they are manifested, however they come out, however long it takes them to express it, however short it takes them to express it. However, this is not the time to say, well, are you sure you're thinking about this the right way? This is not that time.
yeah,
Because, yes, we are, even if you don't think we are. So, if people want to continue to have the conversations like this, stay away from anybody or stay away from shunning any black person right now. And I appreciate you reaching out too, but we got to be whoever are going to be ready to do this reach out. Sometimes you're going to hear the rage and it's going to feel personal. And sit in that. Like sit in that. Look at that. Cuz we don't have anywhere we don't know who else to vent or espouse this rage to. I've seen so many people on Instagram and Facebook, posting their feelings and things, and then white people being like, "Well, I'm not sure if looting is the like you don't get to do that right now. You don't get to do that right now." So I'd say, like you said, just shut up and listen. Just shut up and listen. Shut up and listen. Sure, the vast majority of us are not police officers, but I truly believe that the people who think these ways are emboldened by their community and their tribe. If we can get to a point where people like that are ostracized and in an island, and not to like when Obama was the president, these people existed, but it was like this no tolerance for like racism. And then I also believe that our leadership is touting this. So anyway, I'm sorry, but that's what I would say to people who want to have this discussion. Do not, do not, do not offer or try to make a black person feel that how they're feeling is invalid or doesn't make sense.
mm,
Because it may not make sense to you.
yeah. I mean, I just find it so disturbing how hard people have to try to be believed, like how much effort and exhaustion it shouldn't be the kind of thing that you need to beg to be believed about. It shouldn't be like the kind of thing that makes it sick to try to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be so. It's yeah. I just wanted to send you so much love and a really genuinely thank you for sharing. And I'm going to share this with as many of my peeps as I can. And last thing I want to ask you for now, anyways, is there anything specific you want to say to the entrepreneur community? Um, yeah, anything you want to say specific to entrepreneurs?
Um, you know, when I started in this entrepreneurial space in 2017, I think it was, yeah, 2017. Um, the segregation is so blatant. And sometimes people hide behind target audience. You're not low. We see you. We see you. And it's unfortunate because, you know, when I first started in this space, I had, I felt more of a cohesive experience and a cohesive environment. But then when it came down to services or helping people or creating the space to help people write books and things, that's where it became blatant. It seems very cool in the entrepreneurial space if you're connected with the famous people and if you know what I mean, like if you're connected with the people who are well known and your name is on their Facebook, you know, group, or you know they're shouting you out some kind of way. Um, but the racism is the most blatant in the entrepreneurial community, outside of obviously what we're seeing on TV. Everything that we've had to ever do, like the Black Dollar, the Black Wall Street, Black schools, HBCUs, is because white people didn't allow us to be with them. Because white people did not allow us to be with them, you know? And so, entrepreneurs, I need us to be very candid and honest about if you would rather not have Black clients, that's okay. It's okay. But say that, stand in that. Stand in that. And don't give us the, well, you know, that you might be no. Perception is reality, because that's what it looked like. So um everything in the world is shifting from the way that we communicate to the way that we um are eating and everything. And so we are in a place where we're in a shift, entrepreneurs. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep calling it target audience like we're Apple or something? We are humans, and all of us are trying to make the next person better some kind of way. None of us are Amazon. None of us are Apple. So stop it with the trying to become the Beyoncés of entrepreneurs. Stop it with the like, oh, you don't have enough people, because let me tell you something. Black entrepreneurs will never have the stage presence in the ways that most white entrepreneurs have. There are examples, you know, of great, amazing Black entrepreneurs and you know, in the self entrepreneurial space and the life coaching space and what have you. There's some awesome ones that are doing great work and have a lot of following. But I'm sure you can count them on your hands and toes. So entrepreneurs with platforms, allow us space. Allow us space. And if there's things that are you know, keeping you from allowing us to have that space, then own that. Let us know that. That's fine. Because it is the covertness that creates the like, yo, I never would have thought. Well, we have to go and sifting through, like, what do you mean by, like, everybody has a target audience. Do they? No, but really, like, I think it's high time for us to really go back and, like, really consider that.
I was interviewing a woman yesterday. Um, she's Black, and I asked her, we were talking about worthiness, money. And I asked her in advance, I was like, is it okay if I ask you the question of how this specifically might affect a woman of color? And what would you say about that? And she said that she was like, most people, a lot of white people it wouldn't even enter their mind to hire a Black coach. And it's so interesting because I will never not believe someone that says this world is racist. I will always hear, tell me if you are willing to share, and I'll hear you, and I'll share it with whoever I have access to. But that never crossed my mind. And she was just talking about, like, she said all of the entrepreneurs that she saw around her were white. She's like, I had Oprah that I could look up to, but she didn't have, she had to be very on purpose to seek out those role models. And so anyways, I'm so grateful for you for sharing this, Kenny. I admire the shit out of you. I respect the shit out of you. I know you do such incredible, incredible work. Do you want to tell people what your work is?
Oh yeah, so I do get to do some great work, and it's very timely because after writing my book in 2017 about resilience, ironically, um, I invested a lot of money into my book because I was a novice and I didn't have anyone to learn how to self-publish my book, and I wanted it to be successful. And so I spent a lot of money on white coaches, to be honest. A lot of money. So, and I don't know if they upcharged me because I don't know, whatever. But, and I realized that I could do all of that in one space for those of us that may not have the means. Access is an important thing to me. So becoming a best-selling author is something that I know is a privilege that a lot of people do not get to have but want some kind of. So I started to help people release their stories in a way that helps them feel just as worth it as Eric Thomas. So I help people release their stories and helping them become best-selling authors by releasing their authentic story. And it's great that people create books around practical things. And I want to know the things that you don't want to tell people, right? And it is those books that people want to read. So to date, I have helped over 150 authors.
It's insane. It's insane. It's crazy.
That's
I'm
crazy.
helping one client birth her book right now because she has such a remarkable story. And I
Yeah.
was like, people, like, she would just tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, people, like, do you understand what an important thing it is? She's Colombian, she's a woman, she had so many, like, things that she's been through in this life. And I'm like, do you understand what a radical act it is to share this
Yes.
stuff? And we've been putting on readings and bringing people into it. And I'm so, I so admire what you do, bringing people's stories. Like, that's the thing. At the end of the day, like, what penetrates, what creates empathy is, like, if you feel safe to, and it's okay if you don't, but if you're open to, then tell me your story and I will listen. And I really think that if you sometimes it can be hard to say it to your racist family members or whatever. Hey, that's not the right way to think about it. But if you can tell a story,
yes,
then that's a way of, because anybody will get defensive if you point your finger and say you're wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you say, can I tell you my friend Kenny's story? Then they can see themselves in you. And so it's very beautiful what you're doing.
Yeah, it's great. And it's, you know, I've come across some incredible individuals. I've helped people from the mermaid community who really have found their space in being mermaids. And one of my authors wrote a book about becoming a mermaid, and it became a bestseller. All the way down to helping people recalibrate what they think about death. And I had an author who wrote about the power of losing her mom and what that, like, her mother dying, how it changed her life in a positive way.
Wow.
Right? So it's like these all of us have these stories that we do not want to share, or that we're afraid that somebody's going to learn about them and see us differently. You know, I think we do a really good job in memorizing our spiel, and we got to do that, right? We got to memorize our spiel and who we are and what we do and but I'm somebody who's about connecting to the you that struggles, because that's how my book was birthed, in a very tumultuous space. And it has been working. Lives have been changed, and I feel so happy and blessed to be a vessel to do that.
That's beautiful. Where can peeps find you if they want to check out your work?
Oh my goodness! So if you are...
Okay, we're gonna plug this sucker in. Let's see.
If you are like just browsing on Facebook, you can find me at Dr.
Yes. Don't forget it.
Dr. Kenny Jones. My website is under construction because there was a bug that destroyed it. So.
Oh.
But my other social media is popping. So Facebook is Dr. Kenny Jones. If Twitter is KJ_speaks easy. And the same thing for Instagram.
Yeah. And I'll just say a last thing. You will fuck up in these conversations, and you will sound awkward, and you will stumble, and it's okay. Like, it's okay. It really is okay. Like, people care about your intention. I mean, and so anyways, like, I think so many people are so afraid to have discussions about race because they're afraid of, like, oh no, this person's going to think I'm racist or whatever. Guys, we're all fucking racist because this society is racist. It's like, if we're fish in water and the water is racism and we are drinking the water, yes, there's shame when you feel, and when you see someone or you interact with someone, you have that immediate thought of who you think that they are. There is shame associated with that. That first thing that you think is your social conditioning. Mm-hmm. That's the society that we live in. And so let's have these conversations. And I knew that, like, I said to Kenny when I reached out to him, I sent him a message and I said, can we talk? It's okay if no. And you have every right to feel everything that you feel, every right. And I don't take it personally one bit. You deserve every piece of grief and anger and sadness, and anything is absolutely legitimate. And peeps who have the privilege, and that you're not going to lose something in having these, or if you do, then good riddance to the people who are not down with it. But I just wanted to send you a lot of love, Kenny, and say thank you so much.
Thank you, Paloma. Thank you for being an ally and an accomplice, and we need more like you.
Thank you, darling. And if there's anybody else that needs to or wants to or feels called to speak, feel free to send them my way, and I'm very happy to mute myself.
I would-
Which for my ADD ass is not easy, but it's important, and so I'll do that for anyone.
yeah, it's so, and it's important, especially now. Like
Yeah,
we're not in a space, not like your point earlier. We're not in a space where it's kumbaya.
yeah,
We all need to be angry.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kate.
darling. Sweet dreams.
Bye.
Bye.